Hello everyone, welcome back to Russell's Movie Reviews, the show where I review something that's mostly pretty good, maybe one of the best movies of all time, or a film that absolutely sucks and should remain in the depths of hell. Now, to mention a few things. One, I know it's been a while. It's been almost 2 months since I last did a video, or last did a movie review. But I'm back with this one because I did promise that this was going to be the next one. And I hope you guys like that new, kind of fancy little title sequence I have there. It's something that I'm going to be attempted to, do throughout the next set of reviews and see if you guys like it. So, yay. It's one step forward towards, actual full-on editing. So, yeah, it's worth trying something new, pretty much. Anyway, so you may remember when I reviewed Akira that I said that the next review would be on a little film called Ready Player One. And it's been almost 2 months since that review came out. And it's been about 3 years since I got this, and I've never seen it. And the first time that I actually did see it was for this review. Now, I did hear a lot of praise in terms of it being basically a fun-filled 80s sort of like trip, where basically this film is basically 80s galore. Like, it's just spewing 80s in your face. And so I was kind of intrigued by it. So, went out, bought the Blu-ray, and like I said, I've never seen it until today. And obviously I will reveal my opinions at the end of this review, but there was a lot going for me for this, since I am, more myself a bigger fan of older movies than newer ones, which is surprising considering my age for most people. And literally this being an 80s nostalgia trip, this was perfect for me. So it was pretty much saying this is the movie for me. But let's, move on to the actual review itself. So, this film was made with a budget of $175 million. Domestically, it made only about $137 million. But worldwide, it made about $583 million. So, worldwide, it was a success. But domestically, with the huge budget, it was a flop because it didn't even make his budget back. I'm actually starting to notice something. I'm reviewing a lot of films recently where they don't do really that good domestically, and yet they do really good internationally and worldwide. Maybe I'm starting to notice something here. Anyway, and this was directed by the lovely Steven Spielberg, who has created some of the best films of all time, and definitely some of the most iconic films ever made. He directed Jaws, E.T., Saving Private Ryan, tons of classics, but he also produced many classics as well, like the Back to the Future trilogy. And so, this was, him making this film, which is, like I said, an 80s nostalgia trip. It was pretty much perfect for him. And recently, I believe he directed the remake of West Side Story, so he's still somewhat active recently. But, it was all whether or not he was going to be able to pull this off, because I think at this point he didn't retire, but he was on a hiatus in terms of directing, so this was kind of his jumping back into making films. And did he pull it off? Well, we'll find out at the end of this review. But before we get to that, let's go over the plot. So in 2045, the planet is on the brink of chaos and collapse, but people find salvation in the Oasis, an expansive virtual reality universe created by uh, eccentric James Halliday. Holiday? Screw it, Holiday. Let's go with that. When Holiday dies, he promises his immense fortune to the first person who discovers a digital Easter egg that's hidden somewhere in the Oasis. When young Wade Watts, played by Ty Sheridan, I'm gonna presume I'm gonna how I pronounce it, joins the contest, he finds himself becoming an unlikely hero in a in a reality-bending treasure hunt through a fantastical world of mystery, discovery, and danger. So, it's basically your typical kind of treasure hunt sort of film that we did see quite a lot in the 80s. Like, the first one and most recognizable one I could think of is Romancing the Stone with Michael Douglas. But, it's your typical, not typical, but like we've heard the whole treasure hunt sort of thing, but like done before, even in the 80s, like I said. So it's kind of like, okay, well, it's another retreaded plot, but again, it's kind of calling back to the 80s in the first place. So I guess that was kind of the point. But when I was reading that initially, I was just like, okay, this is probably just gonna be a generic, treasure hunting film that we probably have seen nowadays, with maybe little hints of like 80s, nostalgia like thrown in and out. But I was not expecting them just to throw it in your face like immediately. Because literally, you start the film and they play the song "Jump," which is immediately, it was just like, what? Like, that's literally just like a kick in the nuts saying, this is 80s. Like, you're gonna know what the 80s was filled with by the end of this movie. And it certainly does not disappoint on that. Because before I'm gonna get onto the cast, might as well mention all the stuff I was able to pick out and remember, because there's probably honestly stuff that I am not remembering and didn't notice personally, and other people can go and figure it out. So like the main character Wade's car in the game, in the Oasis, is the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and in the race itself, you could see, I believe you could see Knight Rider's car, or the Knight Rider car, like the Knight 2000. I believe you could also see the Mad Max's car from from the Mad Max series. The Armistice artist, whatever. She uses the motorcycle, which looks strangely familiar to the one that Canada drove in Akira. And I was genuinely surprised by that one. I was like, really? They're going to reference an anime film in this? I was not, like, hating on the film. I was just a little shocked by it. But I was willing on going with it. During the race, you see, I think it is, I know at the end you see King Kong, the original King Kong. Obviously done in CGI, but the original King Kong design, not the 2005 Peter Jackson one. And, it's, and there's many more. In fact, one of my fun facts is actually like an Easter egg that I didn't even notice until doing research about it. So, but I'll save that for later. There's also like certain scores are used from like 80s films. like another fun fact I have, and etc. etc. There's so many of them that I can't even count how many like legit references there are to 80s films. And you could easily, like I think even now probably someone has made a list somewhere of, all the 80s references that are made in this film, because that's probably at least 100, 200 at least. Um but like it's insane, like like the amount of detail and description, yeah, the amount of detail that they put in, because they know that they marketed this as an 80s nostalgia trip, and they were not going to let people down on that promise. uh but 80s references are cool and all, but it's really the story and the cast that makes you want to go through the story or through this film, because yeah, 80s references are cool, but that's not going to be the driving force of seeing a movie. The driving force of seeing the movie is the story and the cast, and if they can sell it good enough to make you want to watch it again. Uh, and really, most of the cast is made up of mostly people that I never even heard of, except for uh, a few actors. But let's go through. Uh, First off, we have Ty Sheridan as Wade Watts, who is basically the main character, who in the real world kind of seems like a nerd initially. Like when we first meet him, he acts like a nerd in real life, kind of like with the glasses, the whole Clark Kent sort of thing. But in the game, he's like kind of like, he's still like not popular, but he's like more, you know, socially active, I guess. But once he meets Artemis, who is in the real world, Samantha Evelyn, who is played by Olivia Cook, he starts to open up to her and eventually meets her in the real world, and he starts breaking out of a show. We have the main villain, who is Sorrentin, and in the credits, I don't think they actually, but in the end credits they show his first name, but I don't think throughout the entire film they mention his first name once, and his first name is Nolan. And I'm actually being serious about that. His first name is Nolan. So Nolan Sorrente, who is played by Ben. I'm gonna butcher this so much, but I'm gonna try anyway. Menestrone. The only thing I recognize his appearance from, and I don't know if this is true or not, is from Rogue One, and he plays like the evil the Empire general in that film. That's the only thing I really recognize him from besides this. And in this, he does all right. Like, he does a serviceable performance. We have Mark Rylance. I'm gonna just say it like that. Who plays James Holiday, who is the creator of Oasis. Who does, I think they do say that him and Ogden Morrow, who is surprisingly played by Simon Pegg, out of all people. Okay. When they created the game, I think in I forgot. I think it was like 2025, and then a few years later, he died, but left a video message, basically saying that, all right, I put all my fortune in this Easter egg that if anyone can find, they can have it. We have the henchman of the film, Rook. I think that's how you say it. Who's played by T.J. Miller. That voice sounds very familiar to me, but I'm forgetting where it's from, but it is very familiar to me. So, it's not like, totally, Adam, like it's not like I don't know him. It definitely sounds like a comedy sort of like person, like Seth Rogen or some crap like that. But I'm just forgetting the name, like films or TV shows they did off the top of my head. We have Lene Wraith, I think, or Rath. Uh, I'm gonna say Waith because there's no R in there. Who plays Helen Harris, also known as H in The Oasis, who is Wade's best friend in the game. And when he eventually meets H in real life, it's a girl. Which honestly, I was not expecting that. So, okay. Uh, and that's pretty much it because the last one I have is Simon Pegg, which I already mentioned. Which, by the way, he does good. Uh, like I don't ever think that there's a role that I know Simon Pegg from where he did badly. Uh, from what I know or from what I've seen, like Shaun of the Dead, At World's End, Hot Fuzz, the Cornetto trilogy. I think that's the right director. I don't know. But those three films he did great in, and other films they popped in like the Mission Impossible films. He did good in that, and in this he does again good. Uh, so it's surprising that he was able to maintain a consistent good performance in all the films I've seen. Um, but yeah, That's really it for the main cast. Really, I guess to talk about favorite scenes. Well, actually, no. I wanted to first talk about least favorite scenes because I actually do kind of like a few, and then go into favorite scenes. Uh, uh, if you I know like a lot of people may have not seen this film, but I did put a spoiler warning at the beginning of this review, so you were warned. When uh Sarante meets Wade's avatar in the game, he he basically implies that his aunt, I think, because he does say that his parents either got divorced or they died. Uh, so he went and lived with his aunt, and as he describes it, the basically all the useless piece of trash boyfriends that she's been with. Uh, but he realizes that he's going for her, so he runs out of the because he plays the game in a junkyard, and in one of the vans he has like his whole setup. So um so Sorrento's like, so you went into your van in this junkyard 3 days ago, and you haven't come out since. And he's like, he basically implies that he's going to kill her. So he runs out of there, heads towards the apartment complex, and he calls her, and the boyfriend picks up. And I mean, yeah, he was a dick before, like when we first met him. When he comes back from something, it might have been just a day of playing, and he's like, I think the boyfriend or the aunt calls him, and he's like, "Did you take my gloves?" And he's like, "Ah, shit." Returns home, and the boyfriend, the aunt's boyfriend, was like, "Did you trade out the gloves? Did you use mine?" And he was just like, maybe your gloves are just faulty, and he just like fucking smacks Nunk a few times, and then you think like, oh, the aunt's gonna come in, tell him to stop, and she does, and sends him off to his room, but then tells Wade that, if you ever steal my gloves again, you're out. And I'm like, wow, you're a fucking bitch. Like, I'm sorry for using that kind of profanity, but like that man just beat the shit out of your, like, out of a family member of yours, and all you could do is just say, "Hey, you steal my fucking gloves again, you're out of here." Like, you're gonna be on the fucking streets. Like, you're a bitch for that. And I get it that like the world as a whole, at at this point is kind of like the world, like the actual world is a shit show. But it's like don't act like that. And I get that she just just got off the fact that her boyfriend just spent all of like all their mortgages to get upgrades in the game, and he just lost them. So now there's no way of getting it back. So she's still kind of, you know, struck by that. But it's like, don't be a bitch to your son-in-law, I guess. It's like, what the nah. And then that's kind of why I didn't really feel anything with her death, because they blow up. I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad them two are fucking dead, because the boyfriend was an asshole, and I thought you were gonna be sympathetic, and nope, you literally just threatened him to get him kicked out on the street, so you deserve to be fucking dead. And then they try the whole like, oh, I'm sad, I'm gonna mope around, I'm gonna go back to my studio, and then he gets captured by Artemis, the girl that he was talking to. He gets taken to their base of operations, and she reveals her name to be Samantha. And so that I was just like, so wait, you knew something was going on to go and blow up his place so that you could send one of your henchmen into there and capture him? Okay? And they never bring up the fact, like, they never show after that scene of him, like, moping around in the streets and then him arriving back at at his van, like, with all the equipment. After that scene, they never show him being sad about his aunt's death. So I'm like, okay, so you didn't like her then? So why were you doing the whole moping around thing like you cared? And yet, Sam's was never like, oh, I'm sorry that, your house blew up and, your family members are dead. It's literally never brought up again. So I'm like, was that scene even really necessary? It literally brought nothing to the story except to show that Sorrente is an asshole and is slowly getting closer to Wade in the real world. That's all that scene was, important for. That was it. And I'm just like, oh my god, was this... so that scene, that whole sequence just pissed me off. But I will admit, though, the initial race sequence is amazing. Just the visuals as a whole is amazing. Him, spawning in the DeLorean, I immediately fucking geeked out. I was like, oh my god, they have the fucking DeLorean. This is amazing. So, yeah. And then I will admit, though, the way that they find, because in order to find the secret, the Easter egg, you have to get these 3 keys. The first one is from the race that we see at the beginning, and he eventually gets it. Then to, I think it's, oh yeah, they get the second key, I believe, when they go into his past, and, they figure out the date that he went on with, I forgot who they mentioned whose wife it is, but they went and they go basically to a theater in 1980, and it's The Shining. Oh my fucking god, this probably is honestly my favorite scene in the entire film, because, or this whole sequence of The Shining is amazing, because they were like, okay, they were like, okay, which movie do we go to in order to find the key? And so they're like, okay, they went and saw the Fly remake and this and that, and he's like, okay, well, what is something that, because they get given like these clues. So once Wade Wade wins the first key from the race, he gets a scroll that basically is like something that he said, or something that Holiday said. So they have to go back into his memories and research and saying like, okay, so he said it here, and then trace it back to, like, for example, with the second key, they find the clip of them when they're developing the game, and they hear that he went on a date. So they go and figure out that it was like when they went to watch one of the movies. So they go into the library and they find The Shining. They get spawned to the theater that they went to. They go through the main part of the theater. They open up the doors to the room where the theater should be, and they're in the lounge from the Sedgwick Hotel from The Shining. And I'm like, they're not gonna do this, and they did. They go up to the typewriter, and it's there's like, in the stacking the pages in the original film, it would say like, I think like Jack is a dull boy or in something whatever, but they actually form the shape of a key, and as the pages keep on going, it's kind of like a timer. It's like, I think they start off with like 280 pages, which is basically like 280 seconds, and it keeps on like going down and going down and going down, and then H goes and falls, like, I think it's a tennis ball. They goes and finds the hallway with the elevator, and he sees the two girls. They go into the elevator. He's like, "Hey, wait!" and opens up the elevator, and then Wade's avatar, which I'm just gonna call Wade throughout the rest of this review, because honestly, I forgot what his avatar was called. So yeah, he's like, "Wait, don't open up the elevator," and he's like, "What?" And then, kind of like similar to what they did in the original film, the elevator opens up and the fountain of blood falls out, which translates to which transitions to him in the hallway, still going through the blood. He finally gets the door open and closes it, and it's 2:37, where he finds the naked woman in the room, and obviously sees that it's a rotting corpse. She tries to attack him with a knife. He falls into the bath, which spawns him into the hedge maze in the snow, which is obviously a reference to the end of the movie. But instead of Jack chasing him around with the axe and the broken leg, it's the rotting lady with a giant axe on top of the hedge maze, slicing down at it. They manage to get him, and they find the ballroom, where in this film, it's actually just like a open like hole in the ballroom, and all the corpses are dancing, and they find the girlfriend, or they find the girl that he went on a date with. Artemis gets to her and finally gets the second key. So I feel like that, they do have a very good structure of, showing the clues, showing how they get to the key, and then obviously them getting the key and going on to the next one. So yeah, the first one is the race. The second one is finding the girl. And then the third one is by playing a venture on the Atari 2600, which is inside this base on planet Doom. When he finally completes the game, he goes and, gets the third key. As they're getting attacked by, company men who work for Sinatra, or Sorantra, whatever the hell. He opens up and finds Holiday in this like gold room, and he's like, "Okay, you can sign this contract and you get Oasis, along with $50 million into your account." And then he remembers that signing the contract, not the contract to obviously get the millions of money, but the contract of selling, I think it was selling Oasis, was the biggest mistake that he ever did. So he's like, "No, I'm not signing it." And so he's like, "Oh, I see this was a test. I see that you're the right one." And they transport into his childhood room, where the long bearded guy who has been giving them all three keys turns into Holiday. He eventually shows him the egg, and Wade transports back to the real world. And that's pretty much where the movie ends. And they basically show, obviously him getting Sarante getting arrested. Wade meeting up with Ogden. And basically a final monologue from Wade, basically explaining what he did with Oasis. That like, I forgot what the first two were, but I know that the last one was he closed it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and the final line is because more people need to learn what the outside feels like. And then hard cut to black, and then another 80s song plays, which I forgot what the fucking name was. But it's like the bum bum boom bum boom bum ba bum ba bum, and it's like I was like, oh my god, really? You go and do that shit to me, and yeah, that's when the movie ends. Yeah, so it is. It is a kind of like a satisfactory ending, and yeah. I guess to move on to the fun facts, and the rest. The club that they make, which I believe they do mention at the end of the film when he gets the egg and he's like, okay, well, sign the contract. They make a group called the Zemeckis Club. Notice the similarities. If you guys are film fans, you guys may recognize that the Zemeckis Club is named after director Robert Zemeckis, who directed the Back to the Future trilogy and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Also, in that scene when they make the club, some music from Back to the Future plays, which is kind of funny, which deals with the composer, because the composer for the Back to the Future trilogy was Alan Silvestri, who also did the score for Ready Player One. And by the way, I honestly couldn't really tell that much. Like, it's honestly, like, in terms of the new stuff, it's kind of just like a generic, I guess. But I could always tell whenever they play like a classic piece of music from the 80s that I can recognize, like, oh, that's from Back to the Future, or oh, that's from Aliens, or something like that, So it's like, it's kind of a mixed bag for me. Some scenes I'm like, okay, I love this piece of music, but it's from an 80s film. And then other pieces of music I'm like, okay, this must be something new, but it sounds kind of just boring. Like, it doesn't sound good at all to me. So it is a mixed bag. You could probably find it on like iTunes or, other streaming platforms for music that have movie soundtracks. You can probably easily find it on there. Along with a sound. They have a soundtrack for the actual music used in the film, and then a soundtrack for like all like the pop songs used, which probably include the opening and closing songs. So, yeah. And the other fun fact is that Artemis uses the M41A pulse rifle from Aliens as her weapon of choice on the Oasis, which like I said, I didn't notice that until I was actually doing research. I'm like, oh, that's what it was. Oh my god. And so yeah, and I already mentioned Alan Silvestri's scores. So yeah. Final thoughts on Ready Player One, released on March 29th of 2019, which I forgot to mention at the beginning, but screw it, I'm mentioning it now. But yeah, final thoughts. It's pretty good. I wouldn't call this an overall masterpiece, but if someone said, hey, we're going to go and watch Ready Player One, you want to watch it? Sure, I'll be down to do it. So, if anyone, is thinking about watching it, go right ahead. It's a pretty good time, especially for like an older kind of audience who grew up in the 80s. They will love this, all the references that the film makes, which is kind of weird because it is made by Warner Brothers, so they would have had to license a lot of these from different companies and sort of stuff. But Honestly, I did notice that most of the '80s references were from like Warner Brothers stuff, like The Shining and stuff like that. There's only like a few that I saw that were like uh like outside of Warner Brothers, like the Back to the Future stuff is obviously Universal and other stuff. Like Iron Giant, I think that might be. I think that's 20th Century Fox. Um, King Kong, that's again Universal, and yeah, other stuff like that. Um, but yeah, yeah, that's pretty much about it. I do recommend it, but it's not like an overall masterpiece. But I do recommend this. So, but overall, the film is just pretty okay. It's a good film, but I probably won't be seeing this for a very long time. So I'm gonna give this film a C plus. So anyway, guys, that brings it to the end of my Ready Player One review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's been a while since I've been doing since the last movie review, and it probably will be a while before the next marathon. Which, if you guys didn't see my channel update video from yesterday, I'll announce it here again in case anyone hasn't seen it. But the next set of reviews I will be doing will be on the Batman quadrilogy. But I'm not going to start with Batman '89. I'm actually going to be starting with Batman the movie from 1966 as a kind of jumping off point, because I'm like, what other time am I going to discuss Batman the movie? So might as well discuss it and then go on to the quadrilogy, which obviously consists of Batman '89, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and probably the worst Batman movie of all time, as well as the worst superhero film of all time, Batman and Robin. But yeah, it's gonna be a while before I get to the Batman marathon, at least the first one. So probably, if I had to guess, either May or early summer, you will see that. Uh, but it may be sooner, but I'm not making any promises. I will be occasionally making videos for this until I kind of get on a consistent schedule again for summer. If you guys want to see me consistently up on another channel, go and watch Franco's Super Mario Galaxy 2 Let's Play. I'm a part of that. In fact, at the time of this recording, we just dropped the first episode. That will be in the description below. So yeah, go and check that out, and we will be uploading throughout basically throughout most of April. So yeah, the first one dropped today. The next few will obviously be in March, and then we're gonna take a break from April 1st to do another video on Franco's channel. But then on the 2nd, we're gonna return doing Mario Galaxy, and yeah. So like I said, go and check out Franco's Galaxy Let's Play. The first episode will be down in the description below. Make sure to also follow me on my social medias. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. That's where you get the first initial news of me making new videos. When they will be coming out, and also follow me on Twitch, because I will occasionally do some live streaming every once in a while. So yeah, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll see you guys in the next video, whenever that might be. Go and check out Franco's Super Mario Galaxy 2 Let's Play, because I'm going to be part of that as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So see you guys in the next video, whenever that might be. And so long for now. Live long and prosper. Out.